What's up YouTube, Capital G here. So after the most recent January 1st, 2020 OCG ban list, I thought about doing a discussion video, maybe like a top 5 takeaways from the ban list, things that I thought could affect the TCG because, you know, we're getting very close to that no sooner than January, I think it's 15th, 2020, basically a month away. But then Konami did something that I found to be way more interesting and very unexpected. Konami actually in the V-Jump explained the ban list and essentially put out their reasonings behind every single hit or every single movement that they did with any of the cards. And this is something that traditionally they don't do very often when it comes to the physical card game. For some reason, I don't know why, because they do it in Duel Links. I believe every ban list, they kind of explain all the cards and why they hit certain cards, why they move cards back, etc., etc. But this is not something we get very often. So I definitely wanted to look at this, see if some of their reasonings made a lot of sense, see if they lined up with what a lot of the community, myself included, thoughts, and just kind of break it down. Now, I don't know if they're going to continue doing this moving forward. There was no announcement on that. I would like to think, because this is going to be, if I'm not mistaken, the last ban list, essentially before Yu-Gi-Oh! Era 7 starts in the OCG, that maybe this will be something that they do for Era 7 moving forward. I would love to see this in the TCG. Konami did it in the TCG a couple of times, but it wasn't met with the greatest reception. But I want to break down a couple of them, not all of them. And I will say at the beginning of this, not all of these explanations are great. Some of them are nonsensical. Some of them I don't believe. I didn't think that Konami was completely transparent with some of these explanations, but I want to break down some of them regardless. Outer Entity as a thought. This card allowed one-sided gameplay, i.e. a floodgate. But I think the biggest difference, and you could probably look at the OCG and be like, well, don't they have Vanity's Emptiness? Like, what the hell is that? I think the difference is counters when it comes to these cards. When you look at a lot of the powerful floodgates, skill drain at 3 in the OCG, Vanity's Emptiness, legal, those cards can be stopped by spell and trap removal. Even some of the most powerful floodgate type monsters can be, susceptible to monster effect negation. As a thought, really isn't like that. It's a condition, if I'm not mistaken. You drop it on your opponent. It doesn't matter if they have, 15 copies of Impermanence and a side frame gear gamble on top of that. They basically just have to deal with it. Topologic Gumblar Dragon allowed for large amounts of hand destruction during the opening turns. Konami didn't say anything about dangers here, but I believe that dangers influenced this decision. We saw in the past Konami banned Divine Sword Phoenix Blade in the OCG because it was a card that could be used an unlimited amount of times. It's always been a card that's pretty much been tied at the hip with Gumblar Dragon, and Gumblar lived for a very long time. We haven't had Gumblar in a long time in the TCG, so to me it's kind of like what changed, and what changed was the danger archetype. So, Konami can't hit dangers because they got to sell those. Speaking of dangers, the beginning of the N, heavily used as a key component in the danger deck. So Konami just saying outright, we're going to hit some cards that are associated with dangers, but we're not going to necessarily hit the dangers themselves because we want to sell those things. Speaking of that, they also, when it came to Allure Darkness, explained heavily used in Thunder Dragon and Danger. So once again, they're hitting cards because of dangers, but they're not going to hit the dangers themselves. Altergeist Milusi, this was one I was not very... I did not like this explanation. It says usage restricted as it can be considered a key card in the start of a duel. What the hell does that even mean? I'm just gonna be honest. So you're telling me that Altergeist players consider like Milusi to be a key card at the start of a duel? Duh. I mean, it's a card that allows you to search for any monster. Generally speaking, when you give an archetype an effect like that, they want to see it early. I mean, would you hit like Satsura Guru because that's a key card in the Guru control deck? Like, there are so many cards that meet that criteria. How about Elemental Hero Stratos? I mean, doesn't Stratos like always hit the field turn 1 in every hero deck ever? That's how the GX era was, and that's how Yu-Gi-Oh! Is now. So why not hit Stratos? I don't know. I didn't like that one. Galatea and Orpus Harpor. The Harpor one made a little more sense to me. It says a powerful card used in several decks. You can kind of go as far back to like Bottomless Trap Hole and Book of Moon to see cards that are splashed in tons of decks in the meta. Konami is generally not a very big fan of this because they want to have diversity in the meta, and that's why those cards, got hit respectively. So we all know that even with Orcus or not just Bardiche ban, but even with the Nightmare Mermaid ban, Orcus still find their way into they find their way into so many different archetypes. So to me, this is completely understandable. I think they should have went further. This Galatea explanation, a heavily used card in the early and mid game. Kind of sounds like Miluseek, to be honest. I mean, I don't think that's like the greatest explanation. The Deep Sea Diva explanation, I'm not buying at all. Konami is not being transparent here. It says by semi-limiting it, it empowers decks like Atlantean. Come on, Konami. You and I damn well know y'all ain't trying to sell no damn Atlantean cards. You're trying to push the new Deep Sea archetype that you just revealed in Eternity Code. Just say that. There's nothing wrong with saying we got a new archetype, and if this card's at 1, you motherfuckers won't play it. Like, you could have just said that, Konami. Like, y'all not trying to sell Atlanteans. You're trying to sell Deep Sea, the new Deep Sea archetype. Baby Sarasaurus, a second win for the once mighty dinosaur archetype. Okay, that definitely makes sense. Actually, hold on, did I skip over? I knew it. I skipped over Dryden. I'm sorry. It says, follows the return of Zodiac Barrage and the restoration of key cards for Zodiac. This one, you know, we see this happen all the time. Decks like Insectors, windups when they're not considered to be OP anymore, Mermill, etc. with like Charit. Konami gives them pieces back. It's interesting because this kind of tells me that if Zodiac don't do anything in the OCG, which they probably won't with just one copy of Barrage and one Trident, that maybe we could even see Trident Broadbull come back, because Konami could have easily just said, all right, guys, we'll give you 3 Barrages. But they specifically decided to give us cards that were banned. So maybe Broadbull is getting unbanned. I don't think Zodiac are going to do much for the next format in the OCG. So maybe we might see Broadbull end up getting unbanned. Tour Guide from the Underworld. A card that can be used in decks like Burning Abyss and Unchained. This is a satisfactory answer in my opinion. Burning Abyss have been meta in the TCG and the OCG forever. Konami also has to know that Unchained were basically a flop as an archetype, so maybe this leaves the door open for them not to just try to get players on Unchained, but even to make new Unchained cards and or Burning Abyss cards in the future and say, hey, you guys got 2 tour guides? You can definitely make this work. Mathematician was interesting. It says semi-limited for being a multi-purpose card. The thing about it is this explanation is generally why you would hit cards, not move them, I guess, closer to freedom on the ban list. Usually when there's a card like Armageddon Knights or, Dark Grepher, these cards that can work in so many different ways, you kind of hit them because they're so powerful and because they're so multi-tooled, I guess you could say. It's interesting that they're kind of moving Mathematician back. I think that Mathematician, Armageddon Knight, and Grepher should all be at 1, if not banned, because they're just cards that are going to get better over time. Thunder Dragon Roar, a small limit for one of the currently popular decks. Okay, they're just saying essentially the deck is too popular. If they would have said this for Ultrageist Miluseek, I would have actually bought it, because then they're just saying Ultrageists are too popular. But I don't think anyone's complaining about Ultrageist. That's why I'm so hung up on the Miluseek thing. Salamangreat Great Circle, semi-limited for being early game support. That explanation doesn't really do it for me. I mean, if you give an archetype a Rhoda, they want to see it in the early game always. Trickstars always want to see Candina. They always want to see Light Stage. Just say that. Just say, it's too strong to be unlimited at 3. I mean, don't say that it's, an early game card. Like, of course it's an early game card. Anyway, Skystriker Mecha Modules multi-role. This effect allows the use of Skystriker cards twice. To me, this is an explanation that would arguably get you banned, to be honest, because there are so few cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! That allow you to just use your most powerful cards in a deck multiple times. Skystriker multi-roll allows you to use any of your cards, and you're really only limited by the amount of back row zones that you have free. The fact that this card can get 4 of your Skystriker cards that you just used and put them all back in your back row for you to use them again is kind of insane to me, but they put it at 2. But I think this explanation is kind of arguing for it to be banned. If you, I don't know. That's just my opinion. Allure of Darkness. We covered that one already. Red Reboot. Mainly used against decks that revolve around powerful trap cards. Okay, I'm a little confused, because isn't this, you're basically saying that, hey, people are only siding this in against trap decks, but Wasn't that the entire point of the card? Even if you watch the freaking Yu-Gi-Oh! Reigns anime, when did Red Reboot appear? It appeared in Revolver versus Ghost Girl, and it was used against Altergeist. And he ended up winning off of it. Like, what? If you're saying that it's too good at its job, like, I can buy that. But you saying that, look, people only play this against trap decks, well, where the fuck else would they play it against? Like, come on, Konami. Elemental Hero Shadow Mist, adding more stability to hero decks. Okay, that's fine. You want heroes to be a little better. No shame in that. Invoked Merkaba. Immediately unlimiting a key card with a powerful effect. You're essentially saying it's not really relevant. Okay, I buy that. Interrupted Kaiju Slumber allows for a breakthrough by destroying all monsters. Okay, when they say a breakthrough, I don't know if they're talking about breaking your opponent's board. I'm gonna assume that that's what they mean. That's fine. Chain Strike provides stability for effect damage decks. This one is nice. Konami on the record admitting we have no problem with burn decks. I think that Konami doesn't have a problem with burn. I think they have a problem with stall. Like Mystic Mine, I think Konami doesn't like. But just burn cards in general, cards that do damage that are effect, I don't think they have a problem with that. I'm perfect. I like this. Konami just admitting, look, we want burn decks to be better. Sorry. I know you guys don't like burn, but we don't have a problem with it. Draco Face Off to power up decks focused on pendulum summoning. Okay, that's fine. Konami, you can make a legitimate argument that throughout the entire Reigns era, Konami has kind of ignored the entire mechanic of pendulums. I don't think that Reigns even had a single pendulum card in it. So, you know, it's fine that they want to buff pendulum summoning a little bit. And then lastly, reasoning for a new wave of Infernoid decks. Now, this is interesting. I don't know exactly what reasoning was at before this FNL list, but when they say a new wave, are they talking about a new way to play Infernoids? Because I imagine it's still going to be the same way with Grass and Reasoning being your key cards. I don't know. I mean, the explanation, like, I understand what they're saying, but the explanation was a little, I don't think the explanation was like clear. Are they talking about like new ways to play Infernoids, or they just want to buff the deck? It sounds like they just want to buff the deck, to be honest. Anyways, those were Konami's reasonings. I agreed with a decent amount of them. Some of them were weird. Some of them didn't make any sense at all. And I would like to see this come to the TCG. At least Konami doesn't have to do it now. And I know that they've had a lot of bad history with it in the TCG. But I feel like for Era 7 of Yu-Gi-Oh!, which should be starting in like January or July to August, I feel like it should just be clean slate. You know what I mean? Your explanations aren't always going to be the greatest. We're not always going to buy them in the community. But having transparency is never a bad thing. Anyways, whatever you guys thought of their explanations, leave it in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching as always, and subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh videos.